Everybody, we're bringing you part 2 of our 3-part series where we're taking a deep dive into ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship course overview. This is part 2 featuring Jenny Ramstedt, and we're taking you from Nämdö until you reach landfall on Ornö. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 185 of the show. We're back with part 2 of our 3-part series, giving you a detailed course overview of ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship. The big day is less than 2 months away, and if you're like us, one way to keep the nerves at bay is to get as prepared as possible for the adventure that awaits. And all teams that are towing the line on September 4th will want to be paying attention to this. In this episode, we cover the middle third-ish of this legendary course from the start of the run on the island of Nämdö through making landfall on the infamous, dare I say infamous, island of Ornö.
The Soul Crusher.
The Soul Crusher.
Soul Crusher and the Lake Crusher.
Joining us for this discussion is the one and only Jenny Ramstedt. Not only is she one of the best swimrunners in the world, she's also one of the best humans. And we're stoked to have her on the show to get her take on the course that she knows like the back of her hand.
No doubt.
No doubt. I mean, I don't know what else we can say about this to tee it up, but this section of the course includes the pig swim, another infamous section of the race.
Yes.
Sort of a bunch of islands going through, and Jenny, I mean, we don't want to spoil it, but when we recorded this,
she knows a thing or two.
She had maps. She had all kinds of stuff. She was more prepared than we were.
That's true. And if you're thinking, Jenny, this sounds familiar, Jenny is part of the Kraken Swimrun contingent in Stockholm, one of our most popular episodes, and they're always at the front in the mix at ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship. So if you haven't listened to part 1, go check that out.
Episode 177. And if you want to check out the Team Kraken Swimrun episode, that's episode 112. So a lot of stuff to keep you busy.
A lot of homework.
But let's just get right into it.
All right.
Nämdö to Ornö.
Let's go.
We are very excited to welcome back to the show Jenny Ramstedt. She's an uber experienced swim runner, friend of ours, friend of the show. Her previous episode where she was on with Team Swimrun Kraken, a Kraken Swimrun, is our number 1 most downloaded show ever, which is amazing. Jenny, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a million, guys. So happy to be here again.
Well, we're really happy to have you. We're a big fan of yours. Again, your swim resume is vast, but you've always been super kind to us and always really helpful. So we always appreciated that, and it was great to spend some islands with you when we did ÖTILLÖ last year until you just left us in the dust. And for
abruptly,
just sort of
abruptly
happened.
left us.
So this is part 2 of a 3-part series where we are doing a deep dive into the ÖTILLÖ course. And I think before we get to the main event, which is essentially detailing how you would get from Nämdö to hitting shore on Ornö, how have you been?
I've been fairly good, I would say. I had some injuries during the winter due to my cross-country skiing. So I did not swim a lot. I did not run a lot intervals. I could only run like easy runs. It was not my best winter, but now I'm back again, and I'm looking forward to start a race again. And the big aim is the first Monday in September.
Wow,
it's also our big aim.
Same for us.
Exactly. So I see you there.
And last year you were paired up with Heather Fell, presenter on GT and Global Triathlon Network, and you had your entire race documented. How was that experience for you?
26 minutes on YouTube.
How was that experience for you?
Goodness.
That was pretty cool.
She's a fantastic person. We were like running and chatting constantly for these 10 hours, or can't remember the time. I was so surprised, I would say, because when she was sold to me as a great swimmer and athlete, which she really is. But when we had our practice swim on the Saturday before the race, she said, well, I don't use paddles. I was like, oh my goodness. So then it was just to face it that I had to take all the swims, which I mentally had prepared for not going to take any sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just since I knew the course, and that was the main reason why she wanted to do it. But we had such a great time, and she's a fantastic athlete, and she could be number one if she would use the paddles.
Well, we
So,
know what you're
Heather,
getting her
if you're listening.
for the holidays, Heather. Hopefully you have your paddle secured by now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we ran into you somewhere along the way for a couple islands, but yeah, you all just took right off. I think on a swim you got a good entry, and we were
That must have
we
been
were
me.
fooling
Yeah.
around. That was probably you pushing it off.
But there are some tricky both entries and exit on
Yeah.
this course.
Yeah.
For sure.
swim-wise.
For sure. So you've done
Yeah.
this course a lot. Before we started airing, you mentioned how you go into all this preparation before a race so you can be as familiar as possible, which is exactly what we're trying to do with this show. I think when we had Oscar Olsen on and he did sort of a global walkthrough of the course, we found that super helpful. But we found after doing the race last year, all the advice that we got, all the pro tips, everything everyone told us, it didn't really, obviously it made sense, but you couldn't really understand what they were talking about until you actually did the course. It's like, oh yeah, the first 2 islands are hard. It's like, okay, yes, but this is like hard if you're like on a different planet type of thing, or just all the different challenges that this course presents, which is why it's one of the hardest endurance events in the world, why it's at least to us, has this sort of mythical status, and it's just a really fun day and a fun way to experience nature. So in part one, we basically got to Nämdö, and Nämdö is essentially sort of like the second quote unquote big run. So why don't we start in Nämdö, and Jenny, why don't you help us walk us through sort of what are the challenges or how to approach getting into sort of beginning the second third of the race.
Have you actually done the exit up on Nämdö yet, or did you take that?
Oh, no.
Is that swim?
Start us there.
Okay.
We're in the water.
Right there.
We're behind Jenny.
We are in the water.
Yeah.
We don't have paddles on.
We're on your feet, tethered.
No paddles though. How do we get out?
Exactly. The thing is, you pass the really tricky running trails at Sept, which is the most, I think, trickiest part. And then you come into the water, and then you can actually think that you are going to swim straight ahead, but the exit is actually like you have to round some small stones so you don't go aground, I think it's called in English. So don't go for the flag. Go straight to the right and look where the flag actually is and where you can exit the water, because it's not straight ahead from where you see from the water. And that is the first, that is always people having problems there and not coming correctly into the exit.
Yeah.
But then when you're finally up there, it's extremely slippery on the rocks. Then you come into like sort of a gravel, and then you're running through fields and some forest. It's really nice and easy run at Nämdö, and it's almost 4.7 to the next energy station, and which is good if you come there. I don't know if you thought of that when you did the race, but before you turning left down to the energy station, then you start to meet people in front of you.
Yeah, the out and back. Yep.
Maybe 1 or 2 teams in front of you only, but then you see, and if you are a very competitive person, you can start to count on how many teams you have in front of you, because they have been down to the energy station, turned around and running up. So for 1K down and 1K up, you can actually count on how many teams you have in front of you. And cheer on the other racers, which I think everyone is doing, because that's such a friendly race. So you're running downwards. It's easy run down to the energy station, which is a great and often, I would say, very crowded station. And then when you're down there, turn up again. And then it's like slightly uphill. You don't see it, but you feel it. I promise you.
Now, if memory serves, this were they offering the hot dogs?
That's where you had the mustard chipper.
So they have a hot. I remember they
Well,
had
I
a hot
don't
dog.
eat during races, so I don't have a clue what they serve.
You didn't have the hot dog there
No,
at the
I
aid
did
station.
not.
No,
Because
me
that
neither.
hot dog would be on the ground like 1K after
Yeah.
if I tried it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think I took
appreciated,
some
but,
energy gels maybe.
Yeah.
No, but then when you're done your eating, you can actually stop there and go up to the restaurant and have a glass of whatever else if you want it, because they have a really nice restaurant up there. But after that, you run. It says on the schedule it's 3.1K. I always feel it's a bit less to the next swim. Then it's really easy run on the gravel, and then you're coming closer to some house. And when you see the first house on your right-hand side, then you should start to get prepared for the swim, because then you're running up a bit. I think it's like maybe 300 meters, and then you're running down on a really nice land and a house property. I wouldn't mind having that one because it's really nice, facing the sun in the afternoon, evening. And then you have
Sounds
the really
lovely.
short swim. I don't know if you remember. It's only 100 meters. Normally very clear water. It's just nice. So, and you don't need to attach if you have a tow line or anything like that. And then you are at Mörtö, and you run for this really nice trail. It's not long, 2.5, I think it says in the paper, but it's really, really nice. I think it's a lovely trail part. And then you probably start to hear when you are approaching the energy station.
Right. This is the one where everyone has the funny hats.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay. I remember this.
Yeah, Roman was there, stated one year. Exactly. And they normally have these, is it called speakers? Can it be?
Yeah,
when
like a
they're
bullhorn.
shouting. And
Yeah.
shouting your name and
Yep.
stuff. Yeah. And you don't see the energy station because you're turning right, but you will hear them, and that is when you come up to an open field, and then you start to see all these people standing there shouting and giving you lots of energy. So in one way, you don't need to take so much energy from the bars or the drinks, because these people are fantastic.
Psychic energy.
They fuel the soul. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Now let me ask you. So when we get to this energy station, obviously the pig swim is sort of looming a couple islands down. Are you doing anything? Are you thinking about anything around this time, sort of preparing yourself for that swim, or you're just trying to go through it?
Not at this energy station. Oh, of course, loading up here as well. Because it takes some minutes for maybe caffeine or whatever to kick in. But I would say when you're coming closer, you are very close. You're extremely close. But on the island before Mörtö Klobbet, on that one, I take always a gel before it's before the swim. And then last year, I remember, because I was so afraid of getting cramp, I took I don't know if you heard of it. You sell it in your country. Cramps Away. It's sort of a gel thing, because it's so easy to get stiff in the water for such a long time. But then when you are... First, you have 2 small swims after the energy stations. And it's only one, is it 1K down to the water?
About
1K and then
1K.
just 100
Yeah, exactly.
Meters.
Yeah. And it's 2 extremely short swims. So just no tow line, nothing. Just as quick as possibly, jumping off the key and then up on the small one, and then just running on the right hand side. And then it's sometimes you swim and sometimes you just walk over the last 50 meters, and then you are at this last island before the pig swim, which is really short run as well. It's 500 meters. So don't take anything off or anything, because
Right.
you will get cold in the water soon. And then you have it, the famous swim.
It's here.
Yeah. So
How
this
did you
swim,
cope last year?
yeah, I mean, last year was pretty. It was nice.
We were blessed with the weather was just amazing.
It was
but
nice. It wasn't,
I was when we approached, I was like, they're like, yeah, it's over there, and they just pointed. I'm like, I think I see it. I'll just start going this way.
Yeah.
And then I remember during the race presentation, they were saying, don't go to Finland. And I'm like, okay, don't go to Finland. Just swim.
You went to Denmark? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to get there, but it was a long swim, for sure. But it's kind of one of those, like, keep chugging away, keep going, keep the pace up on it, because like you said, especially if the weather's a little bit worse for wear, definitely can get chilly in that. What sort of things are you thinking about on the approach to that swim, and then during the swim, to make sure you're staying warm and keeping the energy up?
I'm kicking the feet a bit every now and then, kicking feet and like moving the legs. That is what I'm doing for the lower part of the body. And since I was in the front of the swim, there was no need to change for me, at least. I don't know how much she froze. But then the hand can be sometimes cold, I think, when you're in the water for such a long time. But I can't recall I was that cold really last year. But kicking the legs, also that is good for when you exit the water and will start to run. And then you're like so stiff. And especially on this swim, I would say. First, it's a long swim. Secondly, it's cold from different parts of the swim. And then also when you're getting up and at the exit, because the exit is sometimes tricky. You have some wind normally coming from either direction, and you're floating around a bit. So it's easy to get stuck and get the cramp if you are so stiff. So try to move the legs a bit, I would say, especially in the end of the swim. And look up maybe more than normal, so you don't drift away too much. And because it's easily to drift in this part of the swim as well.
right.
Since it's so open, there's not much around you.
Yeah.
Nothing covering you, really. And then I'm such a freezy person. So for me, it's like, I just try to ignore the feelings that I'm getting colder.
Okay. But those are good tips.
Hard.
Wake the legs up a little bit, so that way you're ready to get out and get going on the run. And it is a little scrambly. I remember getting up. There's definitely some boulders on the way to that Twix bar up there.
Yeah, exactly. I've wrote that down. Take the chocolate, you're getting there.
Don't worry, we're not
I
going
will
to forget.
say there was a complaint for Michael and Matza when we got there that they were done with Twix and they just had some
chocolate bars.
Some
we were too
chocolate.
slow, I think.
Yeah, we didn't make it in time for the Twix.
More of the Twix bars. They are great. I think they're good.
So, I mean, I think I just want to spend a little bit more time on this pig swim because, it's really one of the unique and one of the more challenging tests that this course presents. And, last year when we did it, couldn't ask for better weather. The sea was pretty calm. It wasn't too choppy, but there have been times like 2017 where it was just insane. How do you? I mean, obviously everyone has to get to the other side, but is there anything that you would do differently if the weather is particularly, or if the water is particularly rough? Like we've heard from folks like Villa, who told us that when they did it, the swim was so rough that they untethered because they were just kind of like falling on top of each other. Do you have any sort of recommendations on how to approach it if the weather isn't as nice as it was last year?
I think we order good weather. Now, the thing is, I prefer, since I'm not swimmer since I was 5 years old, I prefer to stay close to other people. Even though you think that it might go a bit too slow, it normally doesn't, but that's what you think sometimes. But I would stay in a group.
Yeah.
And would just abandon that group if I realized they were navigating extremely poorly, because that takes time and then you get colder. But in general, for me, it feels safer to be like surrounded by other people that gives some confidence. So that I would do if it was really, really rough. And I guess also they would have more boats, more lights, and more buoys out if the weather is really, really crap.
And people, in the one experience that we had, Jenny has handfuls more experience than we do, but there was a couple teams, and everyone's kind of spending a little bit extra time making sure you're kind of locked in where you're going, getting your gear settled, because it is a long swim. So you just, maybe that's one, if you're going to take a little bit extra on the transition into the swim.
Yeah,
that's
make sure
probably
your
the place
paddles
to do
are
it.
on right. Kind of stuff.
Put your paddles on right. Make sure you got your suit zipped up. Your goggles aren't fogged up. Like, this is the time to get everything kind of dialed in. This is the one swim to make sure you got that, because you'll be out there for a little bit.
And as Oscar Olsen would say, and Jenny, you echoed this much nicer than he did, is take a fucking gel. It was his thing. It's like, I don't care what's going on.
All right.
Take a gel.
Take a fucking gel.
And I think also for some people maybe that are bringing, like, let's say you're not using an extra like headband or 2 caps or whatever. This is the swim where you should put it on if you bring something extra with you, clothing wise, because it will be cold.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
So that's
but
super
don't
helpful.
forget that extra gel.
Yeah. Can't hurt.
Yeah. So you complete the pig swim, and as you mentioned, Jenny, the exit is it's actually pretty tricky. I mean, a lot of the exits are tricky, but this one you're sort of scaling up, and there's a bunch of sort of rocks that you need to navigate. People have gotten injured on those rocks coming out, so it's definitely, you want to keep your wits about you. And because the swim is long and typically cold, you can be a little disoriented when you're getting out. So just as a point of caution for folks getting out, it's like, yes, you completed the pig swim, now don't slip and break a leg.
No, exactly. I think what you see normally is that people are taking it pretty easy up, that climbing part up. I'm not in the very front as maybe Hugo and Max, etc. But in general, it's better to take it somewhat easier to get up there, as you said, and don't get injured, because the legs are not that fresh.
Yeah, and it's a good time for teamwork as well. Make sure your partner's okay and all the surrounding racers. I know we had, I think, 2 or 3 other teams around us, and we were kind of everyone was sort of make sure everyone's up and out safe. Because it can be tricky navigating, especially if there's swells or anything on the water bits there.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Then you've conquered it. You've conquered the pig swim.
Exactly. So be proud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like some not very strong legs that takes you up there. It's a short run, and then you have some sort of, I don't know if you should call it a swim or. No,
right.
What do you say in English? Wait. No, what do you say when you walk over? Sometimes you
just
walk.
like wade.
Wade.
Wade. Exactly. Yeah. Because it depends on the water level, but it's not very deep. So and then you're like reaching the bigger island.
Right.
Exactly, and then it's a bit more of a trail again. Because then you are at Mörtebundsö, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah. Mortebundsen, and then
Energy 11.
Yes. Then like that short swim, and then it's Kimendo
Bundsö. And then exactly, but the run on Mörtebundsö, it's a trail, and really like it's not the easiest. It's pretty like hard. I think maybe energy level is low from the swim. Maybe that's why it feels so hard. It's a lovely trail, but it's it takes some strength from you, definitely.
Yeah, and I would add some mental strength as well, because I remember this island, I was taking a couple of wrong turns because it's we've talked about this course a lot where it's like, it's never really straight. It's like up, down, left, right,
Yeah.
And I remember just missing a turn and Chipper being like, left, like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Like a couple
Exactly.
times. So it's important to just make sure your head's up. Because it isn't just like, oh yeah, get on this nicely marked wide trail. You're pretty much just following the footsteps of all the people that trampled it. Thank you, Max and Hugo, for being the first ones to trample it down for us. And then we come by a couple hours later. So important to, especially if you're tired and cold, you want to get moving to help you warm up, but you want to make sure that you're, engaged mentally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm normally not very strong at that part, and I think that's from the swim. But it's a lovely trail when you've been there and not racing. Like you're more energized. It's like, oh, this is a nice place. And then when you, luckily there is this next energy coming up. Just when you're getting out from the forest part, entering sort of an open field and like houses or like cow houses, and then you're really close to the both entry and the energy. 11 is it, I think.
Yep.
And just take whatever and jump off and short, easy swim, I would say. I don't know what you say. And then we have the run on Nämdö, which is nice.
Yep. Yeah, I don't remember that one being too technical or too.
No, it's a trail. It's a single track. You're running on the shade side, so it's not the warmest place, maybe. Now you hear probably that I'm a freezing person because I remember where I'm freezing a lot. But it's you're running up. It's quite high where you run, so you can see the water. And when you are running that track, if you look forward to the right, you will start to see when people have entered the swim, because that coming swim is the third longest, I would say, but that is also the only swim that goes in another direction. Normally the other swims goes, if you're looking on the map, like Sandhamn down to ÖTILLÖ. This one is going a bit more north east.
Yep.
Compared to the other one that goes more in the southwest direction. So north is maybe. But it's so if you have had winds, etc., in one direction, maybe this one can be a bit different. So that is maybe something to take in consideration before entering. And it's pretty long. And you will have some sort of stones in the middle of the swim. I don't know if you recall that.
I think we remember seeing them, but we're like, we don't get out there. We need to go straight kind of thing.
Yeah. Chris was probably yelling at me from the back. Don't stop there. Just keep going.
Go. No, it's a straight swim, but you have stones in the middle. Normally, I think there's a flag there, a buoy or something. And then, if I don't recall it wrongly, the exit of that is also a bit tricky, because I think that is also up on some cliffs or stones, and you're climbing up a bit. And that island is really, really short. You should just pass it, but it's a technical island, but it's extremely short, just a few hundred meters. And then you have another swim again, which is really nice and easy and more secured by other islands around. So it's that is nothing to think of like that, because it's just nice and easy and warmer. And then you are up on the big island and almost close to where my part ends.
Yeah. Well, before we get to Nämdö, which is I mean that island is pretty much just getting you ready for the main event in terms of running. So the swim after the swim that we were just talking about, the one that goes kind of northeast, we've heard from previous guests that swim is not to be underestimated, because because you might not actually have warmed up completely from the pig swim.
No.
So anything, do you have any tips on, I mean, having done it, you've done it a bunch of times, like, should you try to go a little bit more up tempo to make sure you stay warm, try to warm up on the run, or is there anything that you're thinking to make sure that you can navigate the swim without getting like super cold?
Another gel, maybe.
Just keep eating.
Good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep
Another
your
gel.
and it sounds like if you put any additional headband or another swim cap
I'll put
on for the
that on
pig
again.
swim, keep it on for this
Yes.
one, because that will give you the time to at least warm up a little bit, because this is another almost a 1K swim as well.
Yeah. And you only been running 2.2 Ks before,
Right.
Yeah.
between the swims, 2.4 maybe with the small island. So 2.4, 2.5-ish. So you're not that warm, and especially since you, 2.2 on the first and then 1 point. Well, it's only 1.5 from Mörte Bunse. So you're not warm at all, I would say. So absolutely correct. It's hard to, like, I would say, increase the pace on running to get warm for the water, but maybe try to get some speed with the pedals. But it's not the coldest one. It's just long. But maybe divided since you have the stones in the middle, divided into parts. So you don't see 1,000 meters straight ahead. See 500 meters. That is much easier. And then you have next 500 meters.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
But
yeah.
that's how I do a lot, like dividing it into different parts when it gets boring, especially on Ornö, but that's another person taking. But there you have the 5K, 5K.
Yeah.
Gravel
no,
That's
K,
how I should have thought about it last
asphalt.
year.
Yeah. That's
There's
super
like
helpful.
some 5Ks.
Yeah, a couple 5Ks in there.
A couple of them.
So before we hit landfall in Ornö, though, we have to navigate Nämdö, which is honestly,
nice.
when we hit this island last year, I thought we were on Ornö.
Oh no!
So it wasn't until we got to the aid station at the end where I was like, "Oh, I thought we were on Ornö," and then the person was like, "Oh no, that's the next. That's the next one."
But that island, I think, is really sort of summer paradise. I don't. You probably didn't see that, but you have cows, you have like horses, like sheeps, and you see. But it's really nice summer place. You're running on. Well, first there's a single track where you have this. What is it called? This straw, high yellow. It's not.
Like a field?
The field of the
Corn stalks?
For hayfield,
Wheat?
Nej.
That's
Vass.
Corn?
In Swedish, it's vass. I'll get back to. Sometimes you have the photographer there, the lovely photographer of the media team, laying there, because it's like.
Oh yes.
You remember?
Yeah, it's like a wheat field. It's just
Yeah,
a tall grass wheat field.
But it's like it's that is close to the water, so it's called something else in.
Interesting.
Like a wetlands or something. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Exactly. I'll get back with it. But it's a nice run. Easy, I would say. You're opening, closing a lot of. For the fields of the animals,
the cattle gates.
Exactly, cattle gates. Yeah, exactly. And when you are, I would say, you close when you're closing. I should not say the last because you don't know when the last is, but that is, since you are approaching the energy station as well, you prepare for the really, really short swim over to Ornö. But when you're coming to that energy station, then it's like, since you have the long run approaching, so fill up the water bottles, take as much as possible, take whatever you can, like, into the wetsuit as well. The swim is nothing. It's like, how many meters is it? Like 100, 150 over to Ornö. So it's just do it. But fill up.
That advice is well taken. I remember doing that last year, filling up a flask and just like a water flask and just kind of stuffing it in the wetsuit, which wasn't very comfortable. But I was like, well, I know I'm going to want it when I get to Ornö, because this is foreshadowing for the next episode. You know, the aid station is pretty far down the road, so you want to have. It's going to be a while before you can get any water or anything like that.
That was a well-stocked aid station. I remember I think they had like some Nutella stuff. They had a little bit extra of the fare, of the food there. But eat, and then take some to go.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
You're going to need it.
To go.
Little doggy bag or whatever.
Yeah, big doggy bag, I would say.
Yeah.
Because then you have a lot, you need a lot for that effort coming up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because basically, you know, a short swim, 150 meters, something like that, and then you get onto
it's like
landfall.
A boat ramp exit almost, right?
Yep.
The easiest exit of the day.
Yeah, getting onto Ornö is not bad. It's just dealing with Ornö that's bad. But Jenny, I think this is super helpful for us. So, do you have any sort of other tips that you want to that we should be thinking about, whether for this, you know, middle third of the course or just in general? Because
give us some of your knowledge.
I would say when you pass then Ornö, then it's just like half Ornö, then it's like ching ching. Now you've done it. You're not you haven't finished it, but almost.
It's there.
It's there, exactly. But I think enjoy it. Look, I forgot to mention that, but during the pig swim, everyone is so like, it's a bit scary, it's long, it's cold, it's like whatever. But when you are there, look up and actually look on what you're facing on both directions while breathing, because it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah, same thing with the first swim. That's something that Marika Wagner told us, is like, hey, that first swim when the sun is rising, make sure that you're like at least understand that that's what's happening. Like try to take in the beauty if you can.
In the water, I said, I like just before the exit, I said, you have to look back. Yeah. Turn around and look back. And it is amazing.
For sure.
Yeah, take the 5 seconds on the 10 to 12 to 13 hour day. It's worth the 5 seconds to just check it out.
Definitely is. And also like share all the sharing people, I think, on the islands.
Yeah.
Who are thinking this is like such a big event for them. And they are so like smiling and friendly and bringing that is giving you a lot of energy.
Yeah, and they're making those what are those chocolate
balls?
Chocolate balls? Man, those were good.
Oh.
Where they're making their own ones.
Yeah.
On the island.
I regret not hitting the Canal Bular at some of those aid stations, but I was like you, Jenny, I was like, I don't know if this is going to just show up on the side of the road, the trail, like, you know, a couple kilometers
take the risk
down.
For it.
Then you go back to the day after and it's like, can I have some, please?
Exactly. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time and walking us through this part of the course. You know, we have a huge amount of respect for you as an athlete, as a person. You've been always really kind to us, so we really appreciate you taking the time, and looking forward to seeing you again in September.
Now I hope we see each other before and maybe do some session together.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. That happen.
Yeah.
And the fuss in English is read.
Read.
Oh, yes.
Read. So that's where you can find the photographers sometimes.
Yes.
I remember because someone was laying down and I was, for some reason, I was taking my jersey off and I had it up over my face, and then I realized the photographer was there.
Okay.
I was like, I'm not going to get in that photo.
Yeah, that's an instant delete.
Yeah, instant delete on that photo.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much. Really appreciate you, and see you soon.
Indeed. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Jenny.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a rate or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com, that's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.